ਅਕਾਲ ਮੂਰਤ ਅਜੂਨੀ ਸੈਭੰ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਜਪ। ਆਦਿ ਸੱਚ ਜੁਗਾਦ ਸੱਚ ਹੈ ਭੀ ਸੱਚ। ਨਾਨਕ ਹੋਸੀ ਭੀ ਸੱਚ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ. Thank you for tuning in into this live video. And hopefully the audio is a lot better than the previous video. This question that a lot of people believe is one of the most difficult questions in theology. But I don't think so. If God loves us, if God is omnibenevolent, God is the creator of the world, the sustainer, the protector, then why do things like this happen where people suffer across the world? Now, this is a question that is actually stemming from a lot of other questions. Then what is free will? Do we have free will? Do we not have free will? What is the meaning of life? Well, then if this is happening in the world, then, and God is the one that's doing it, that means God must be good and evil. Because if God is doing this that's evil and people are suffering because of it, then why should we praise God? Then if this is the case, then why should we even believe there's a God if He's not protecting us? So a lot of times we go into this whirlpool of questions. But let's take a step back and break this down into a simple way that we might be able to understand this given today's context. First thing we have to understand is, what is hukam? How do we play a part of that? And then these difficulties, these hardships that we face today, such as epidemics, people suffering, are these good or are these bad? How can we look at them from a physical perspective and from a spiritual perspective as well? And then some things that we can do to help us understand this whole game, help us understand that how God, how Paramatma, how Vaheguru can love us, create this world, and have all of these things going in the world, but that doesn't take away from the bigger question. What is hukam? Hukam is the command of Akal Purkh. When we look at this entire creation, we see things created within elements. We see patterns within things, day and night. We see pain versus happiness, hot versus cold. There is duality in everything around you, even within yourself. There are ups and downs. This creation, the system, the law of being within what this world is created, the creation is created within, we call that hukam. Because you feel like not breathing for half an hour, just by you deciding that, you cannot stay alive. The hukam is, if you start breathing for this amount of time, you will eventually die. Your body will die because it won't get enough oxygen pumping through your body. Within that same hukam is that a human cannot live 60 years without sleep. Within that same hukam is categorized what is a good deed and what is a bad deed. A good deed, just by you deciding today that I want to go and, beat up innocent people today. By you deciding and telling yourself that I believe that's a good thing doesn't make it a relatively good thing. What is the standard that you judge good and bad on? Now, this is something that's been debated by so many people. As a Sikh, someone that's faithful to the Guru, someone that's faithful to God, our morality is based upon the Guru's hukam, the physical command given to us, the teachings of those saints that have lived and experienced enlightenment and are teaching us. Now this hukam of the Guru to us sets that morality. It gives us guidance. And inside of this Gurbani, within Guru's command, saying that if you meditate on God's name, you will reach high states of spirituality and be able to experience bliss, experience ecstasy. All your doubts will be dispelled. All your pains and sorrows will go away. Now on the other hand, it's saying that if you don't, that if you live according to your own mind, you slander, you cheat, you grow your ego, you live egotistically, you attach yourself to false things that won't go with you after this body of yours is dead, then you will find yourself completely stuck in this mud of attachment, this mud of illusion. So what I'm trying to say is, look, there is free will within the hukam. You are able to do actions for which you will receive the fruits for. You will either receive the fruits or the consequences. You do an action, and according to the kaswati, according to the judgment of the Guru, of Akal Purkh's hukam, the creation laws of this world, consider what is good and bad. You receive fruits for that. That creates your karma. Your past actions, the ones that you are doing now, and then what's going to happen in the future. The person that chose themselves through their own free will, within their own ignorance, within their own being, they're living within ignorance of not realizing the true power of God, the vision of God, being able to see Waheguru everywhere. That ignorance itself makes the person drive away from that, and they themselves cause themselves pain. Now that same person can make a choice to do good deeds, to recite God's name. We're just speaking within the context of Gurbani. If a person recites God's name, spends time with not the negative people but the positive people, constantly remembers Waheguru with loving fear, they can experience the greatest aspects of life. That person who's reached enlightenment, removed their ego, they never have pain, sorrows, or any of this stuff anymore. They're all gone away. Now the question, going back to the root, if God is loving, then why does He create people within this free will, within this ignorance, which allows them to feel pain, such as anxiety, maybe in a situation like this, maybe fear, maybe people are panicking. Just a side note, if we look at the whole toilet paper crisis or the toilet roll crisis that's going on around the world right now, it might seem funny, but when we look at Puratana Guru Sikhs, and this is something that I'm just adding my own little 2 cents here. There are 2 favorite words of mine. One is Puratan, which means ancient or old, and then one is Brahmgyan, which is reaching enlightenment, or a person that's reached enlightenment. When we look back at these Guru Sikhs, I just think to myself, they're living within jungles. Their head is on a price. People are trying to hunt them down. They're living off of horseback. There's only a few of them. They don't know when their next meal is going to be. Now, we're living within houses. We have roofs over our head. We have all of these things. They're not suffering. They're in a state of Chardi Kala, a state of complete bliss. On their tongue, they're reciting God's name. They're living off a horseback. They're washing their hands in the river. They're taking small plants that they can just pick, and they're cooking them over on top of fire and feeding themselves and a few of their members. And even despite all of these hardships that they're facing, they're still being selfless and serving the other person before they look after themselves. I want to just touch upon a small aspect. I was reading about the Islamic faith and I found it beautiful. There was an instant where Imam Hussein, he was trapped and surrounded by an army. When he was in the battle of Karbala, he had to go fight through the army, reach the river, and when he reached the river, his horse put his head down to pick up that water. And Hussein commanded the horse, "How can you be drinking water, O horse, before all the women and children have? I'm not going to drink this water. You should not be drinking this water. Don't be selfish, become selfless." I'm just trying to use that as an example because we learn from everybody that look, if back in the day they had absolutely nothing and they're completely in states of bliss and tardikal, I'm sure Hussein and them had no toilet paper. I'm sure the Gursikhs that were living in the jungles, they had no toilet paper. They used water. They used different methods to cleanse themselves. Don't use the way that you frame your life to completely engulf yourself in this attachment. That's why you suffer, because you turn away from that. Within your own free will, think of this as a test. Why is there suffering? Why are all of these things happening? Because it's the way that we perceive them to be. That's one aspect of it. Now when we look at why does there have to be suffering, why does there have to be pain and sorrow for there to be bliss and happiness and all of these good things? Everything in life, and we look at it from a philosophical perspective, everything in life is within duality. There are two aspects of everything. At one point in time you are happy. You're comparing that time of happiness to a time that you are sad, to a painful time. That person who has experienced a lot of hardship, they're very, very grateful for the things that they have in life. Somebody that has lived homeless for 30 years, they won't be complaining that why is my food hot and why is it cold. They'll be so thankful that I have food, that I have a roof. Somebody that's been living in isolation and living in loneliness, they'll be so happy that they have a friend that they can talk to. Through comparison. Now, we all do this and it's all on the internet. There are TV shows based about this thing. About somebody who had everything growing up. They had rich parents, they had lots of money, they could do whatever they want. And we call them entitled brats. That's what we do. Somebody who does not have the ability to compare their assets or to compare the things that they have, their happiness, to sorrow or other people's sorrow, because they've never ever experienced that form of sorrow. So they complain that why do I have a Honda car, why don't I have a Lamborghini? Whereas somebody else is comparing it to the ability to ride a bike or go to places, the ability to walk. And now look at this beauty. Think of this as a blessing. Don't think of why is this happening, it's a bad thing. No, this is happening because Waheguru loves us. Paramatma is teaching us. You are being so grateful now for even toilet paper, where you weren't before. You could even use that aspect to become even more selfish, or you can become selfless. You have a roof over your head. First you're traveling everywhere, you're complaining about your Lamborghini, you're complaining about all of these things, but now you'll be grateful that, wow, I can walk outside and meet my friends again. You're learning the subtleties of life. This is what great parents, they're trying to teach their children. To learn gratitude, to be grateful, to become selfless, to become humble in life, to realize these things. We have different karma that we face. Yes, we do need to take precautions to take care of our body. My brother Baljit Singh, he was speaking in another video a couple of days ago, where he touched upon the Sakhi of Guru Amar Das Ji. Touch on it just briefly here. A wall was about to fall on Guru Amar Das Ji, the third Guru. When the wall was about to fall, Guru Amar Das Ji stepped away to save themselves. Somebody asked them, Guru Amar Das Ji, people are afraid of death. You are the Guru, you are the person that's guiding them. Get rid of this fear of death. And if you are also fearful of death, then what are we going to learn? Guru Amar Das Ji teaches them that no, do not think I'm fearful of death because I'm stepping away from this wall. The reality is that this body is priceless. Guru Sahib gave us this as a gift. God blessed us with this to do good, to experience the separation of God and merge with God, to experience that ecstasy. And truth be this, that the person who experiences the bliss of God, they compare it to the person who is living in doubt and depression and anxiety and going across the world completely in doubt. He compares it that, wow, I have this great being. That is true suffering. Somebody looks at the world and say, I have food. That person does not have food. They are suffering. Thank God I'm not suffering. This is what the enlightened being, this is what a Gursik, this is what somebody merged in that love of God, experiencing that ecstasy of God's name. This is what they say. They say, Guru Sahib has blessed me. God has blessed me with this experience, this realization. Look at this people in this world. They are suffering. That's why Guru Sahib says these words, Jagat Jalanda Rakh le apni kirpa tar. That's the true meaning. Not saying that, look, the world is burning and people are suffering. No, this is from the perspective of Guru Sahib. Guru Sahib is saying, look, what the true meaning of life is. It is extreme bliss of God's name, to experience God. But look, the world is living in such a dark age that they are not. They're stuck in money, wealth, pleasing people, doing all of this. That is true suffering. Forget diseases, forget physical things. All of these things are secondary. My brothers and sisters, I want you to rise above this. Look at this. If we have this free will and people are suffering to it, that gives value to the experience of God. Think of this as a blessing. Because Guru Sahib loves us, because Waheguru, God, Allah, Paramatma, the Creator, the Sustainer, because Waheguru loves us, that's why this test is being given to us in this world, to realize all of these things. Don't think that God is putting pressure on this world. And here's the beautiful example. Diamonds are created with pressure. Coal in itself has less value. When it goes through pressure, it comes out on the other end as a diamond. There's an example, I was just listening to something online where the person is giving the example of a caterpillar and a butterfly, where the caterpillar is inside of a cocoon. It's struggling to break free, it's struggling to get out of that. And that struggle in itself is what allows that caterpillar to mold into a butterfly. And if somebody pulls the butterfly out early, the butterfly won't be able to fly. This pressure in itself allows us to become the greatest that we can become. And our true form isn't this body. Our true form is the form of God, of omnipresent God. God is here, watching everything, knowing all of your pains. Hamri bedan har prab jana mere man antar ki peer. Truly, you do not need to cry out to God and say, God, are you even listening to me? This is my pain. Can you help me? Truth is, Guru Sahib knows this pain of yours inside of your heart, the depths of your heart before you even know it. Now somebody might say, well, that's such an evil thing to do. No, it's not evil, Pyareo. Even a mother disciplines the child, puts them through a test to make them come out on the other end. We look at this life very black and white, life and death, good and bad, all of these things. Guru Sahib knows our karma to a much greater extent. They know how our mind is going to be disciplined in a much greater extent. Now, there is another aspect to this as well. We have individual karma. There are certain things that we do collectively as well. And in this world, we make mistakes. Maybe, just maybe, the world has forgotten death. And when you remember death, you remember the things that are really valuable in life. You all know this. People say that when you're on your deathbed, what would you be thinking about then? People say, well, of course I'm not going to be thinking about my money, I'll think about my family. Somebody else will say, well, I'll think about the great moments that I had in life. And the spiritually enlightened, they say, we realize that this world is all just an illusion. We only focus on merging with that one true love of ours, which is the Creator, with God. We get so blocked by this illusion of the world. And this true love of Guru Sahib is helping the world today collectively come to that realization. Look at what the great things are in life as well. The great things in life, the things to value. For some people, it might be just to the extent of your loved ones, of your family. To some people, it's to become grateful for your house and your job. For some people, it's to always keep their mind disciplined